last February, President Zelensky was welcomed to Buckingham Palace by the King. In February of this year, Queen Camilla held a meeting with the First Lady at Clarence House. And on the second anniversary of the conflict, the King issued that very strongly worded statement where he talked about the unprovoked attacks and the indescribable aggression that had been meted out by Russia to Ukraine. So this is part of a long-running campaign of support by members of the royal family.
Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh, has made a surprise visit to Ukraine. She's the first royal to visit the war zone since the fighting began in February 2022 and has met President Zelensky and his wife Olena. Could this sort of thing become more common, and what does it all mean? We're joined by the royal correspondent Sarah Hewson. Morning to you, Sarah.
Morning, Asma.
Why has this happened, and why Sophie?
Well, the Duchess of Edinburgh was there on behalf of the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, representing the royal family, but also as part of the work that she's been doing for some years now around preventing sexual violence in conflict. She's travelled the world for that work, going to countries like South Sudan, to Sierra Leone, to Kosovo, to Colombia, for example. She'd long wanted to go to Ukraine, and yesterday that visit happened. And as you say, she met President Zelensky and his wife, Elena Zelenska. She passed on a private letter of support from the King. And she met male and female survivors of sexual abuse. She met children who have just been returned to Ukraine, having been forcibly removed from their families and taken to Russia as part of an attempt to erase Ukrainian culture. And she also travelled outside of Kyiv to Bucha to see the scene of a massacre there. Bucha occupied by Russian troops for more than a month in the early stages of the war. And when it was liberated, it was discovered that there had been mass executions, torture, and rape. She described it as an incredibly moving visit yesterday, speaking to those survivors of sexual violence. She talked about women and children being used as weapons of war. And I think for her, this is something she's long wanted to do, and she's a very powerful advocate.
And what does it mean for, well, I suppose, what does it change in a way? I mean, it could be a soft and small, nuanced thing, but what difference does a visit like this by a royal make?
Well, it's that soft diplomacy that we talk about so often, isn't it, Asma? We know that the royal family have been long-time supporters of Ukraine. Last February, President Zelensky was welcomed to Buckingham Palace by the King. In February of this year, Queen Camilla held a meeting with the First Lady at Clarence House. And on the second anniversary of the conflict, the King issued that very strongly worded statement where he talked about the unprovoked attacks and the indescribable aggression that had been meted out by Russia to Ukraine. So this is part of a long-running campaign of support by members of the royal family, but it's very significant, the most high-profile gesture of support yet, having a member of the royal family visit the country in person.
Now, back home, the King returning to public duties. What is he going to be doing? Do we know how regularly he will be performing his public duties at the moment?
Well, we've just got the first of his engagements announced, and also a royal tour later on in June by the Emperor and Empress of Japan. But we're told there will be more engagements coming up in between that period. So today, a very carefully chosen engagement for the King and Queen Camilla. It's their first joint engagement since mid-November last year. So it's a long time since we've seen them out and about together. And they're visiting a cancer treatment centre. They're going to be meeting medical staff. They're going to be seeing patients and their families. I think there's a clear message they want to send. Yes, about raising awareness of the importance of early diagnosis, but also supporting those who are going through it and showing that cancer is a frightening diagnosis, but that life continues. The king, of course, still going through his treatment at the moment, but has been told that he can get back to work, he can get out there and do the job that he is meant to be doing and has been kept away from for all of these months. So I think it will be a very important day for him today. I know he's been frustrated to be kept behind closed doors, but finally to be back out in the public, very significant. And then gearing up towards the summer when it does get very busy with events like Trooping the Colour, it has been suggested that he might want to ride his horse Noble in the parade for that, which would be a big stepping up. We had thought perhaps he would take part in a carriage procession at most, or even just an appearance on the balcony. And not a full programme of events across the summer for him, but still we will be seeing a lot more of the king in the coming months.
Okay, Sarah, thank you for that. That's royal correspondent Sarah Hewson.
Перші 3 дні ми вивозили людей двічі на день потягом. Змінювали з мінометів з артилерії.
Коли почнуть рухатись в напрямку туди, то ми йдемо до машин зразу.
І нам вдалося перемогти.
So of course the first one fire on the local authority wanted to know what is going to happen.
Територія церкви знаходиться недалеко від лікарні, де є морг.
The movement of liberation, and you will see more than 500 names on this temple.
In blue dress with a red wool and spindle. It was also secular center, not only religious. And
this is the second one here in the middle.
the human cost of war is very real, and I know that everybody here feels it very intensely. Where we cannot prevent it from happening, what we must do is put measures in place to support those who have fallen victim to such crimes. This afternoon, Survivors for Ukraine was a wonderful opportunity to see an organisation that's really looking after children, looking after families, putting families first, and they're doing a wonderful job. But I know with the help of the survivor centres that they will get back on their feet and they will be able to move forward. It is true that women and girls pay the highest price in terms of human cost when it comes to the way that they are affected and the way that they can be used as weapons of war.